Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. Today I'm going to share with you how to make your child hate reading. When it comes to homeschooling, you probably think of a homeschooled child and reading as going hand in hand. Most people seem to believe that all homeschoolers just have these kids who love to read all the time and are huge bookworms. And while there are a lot of homeschoolers who really do enjoy reading, there are also other homeschoolers who don't enjoy it all that much. And you know what? That's really okay, because there are different interests that they follow. So it doesn't mean that they're just sitting there vegging out. So first of all, I just want to point that out, that it's okay if your child doesn't enjoy reading all that much. But what I want to talk to you about today are things that you, the parent, might be doing that are going to make your child hate reading. You know, and there's a difference between not choosing it to do in their free time and outright hating it. But this is something that I think a lot of us homeschooling parents are guilty of. We're not intentionally trying to do it, and I'm not going to say that I've never done any of these things, because that's how I know the effect that some of these things have, is because I have done them at some point in my life. So I'm going to share those with you today. The first one is the biggest one, and that's why I'm going to share it with you, because if you don't even get through the rest of the video, which I hope you do, this is the one that I think is the most important and that we really need to get the word out on. And that is, one way to make your child hate reading is by pushing them to read before they're ready. And you know what? I blame our society today a lot for this, because everywhere that you look, there are signs everywhere touting early literacy and the importance of preschool, and you hear ads on it, you know, on the radio, or, you know, they'll pop up on your computer screen. And just the other day, there was a video going around that a preschool made that was insinuating that kids who do not go to preschool are more likely to go to jail, and those sort of scare tactics. And I'm going to tell you today, don't believe them, okay? Because what you need to remember is that all of these people who are espousing, you know, how kids need preschool and how they have to start reading when they're really young, these are all people who have some sort of financial stake in it, whether they are the owner of the business, or whether they are wanting tax dollars, or whether, you know, it's a career field. They all have some sort of stake in it. So what I'm going to tell you, though, is that kids don't need to learn to read when they are 4 or 5 years old. Kids are all different, and I say this all the time, but kids are individuals. Okay, and I'm not going to say that kids who are 4 should never learn to read. If they are ready to learn to read when they are 4, if they are showing signs of it, then yes, by all means, have them learn to read when they are 4. But at the same time, there are some kids who are like 7 or 8 years old who aren't really ready to read yet. Does that mean there's something wrong with them? If you would ask the schools, they would say yes. But I'm going to tell you, no, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. Because reading is only one skill that kids learn. Oftentimes, kids who are behind, quote, behind in reading are ahead in other areas. Maybe in sports, maybe in art, maybe in critical thinking. So we tend to put reading up on a pedestal above all other skills that kids need to learn. But the fact of the matter is that it's just one skill. And I've actually got a little anecdote about this for you. My oldest son, he was in public school when he was actually in public school for most of his years. I only homeschooled him for 2 years. But when he was 8, his teacher actually asked me to come in for a conference, and there were a bunch of other faculty members there. And they wanted me to give permission for them to hold him back because he wasn't reading where they thought he should be. And I refused, because I knew that he did not need to be held back. Well, so they didn't hold him back. 2 years later, this same child was being tested for the Gifted and Talented program. So when your child learns to read has no bearing on their intelligence. So if there's one way that you really want to discourage your child from reading, it's by forcing them to sit and do lessons when they truly are not ready. Just let them learn in their own time. So the second way is actually related to the first way. It's not letting your kids learn to read at their own pace. So say that your kids have now shown signs that they want to read, or they have come out and told you, I want to learn how to read. What you need to remember is that if you take a reading curriculum, you don't need to do it exactly like the manual says. If your child wants to do 3 lessons in one day and work ahead, go for it. If your child is kind of struggling a little bit and you can they only want to do half a lesson, then do that, because there is no such thing as the curriculum police. They are not going to come knocking at your door if you don't follow strictly what the manual says for your reading curriculum. Let your child be the guide in how fast or how slowly they move along. And the third way to make your child hate reading is to not let them have any say in what they read. And as a homeschool mom, I know there are so many books out there that I would love for my kids to read. I always say, so many books, so little time. And it's true. But the thing is that if you are the one doing the assigning of the reading all the time, how are your kids going to find out what they like? And not only that, I'm going to say that while I really do enjoy high quality literature in our homeschool, and I do enjoy living books, if my kids would rather read Captain Underpants than Warhorse, is the world going to end? Now, I'm not saying that you have to let your kids read Captain Underpants for the entire year and read nothing else. But what I am saying is, give your kids a little say into what they're reading. Maybe sometimes you can choose and sometimes they can choose. But just remember that just because you might like something doesn't mean that they will. So the next way to help your kids hate reading is by requiring them to write a book report for every single book that they read. Now, I know that there are a lot of kids out there who don't enjoy reading. There are a lot of adults out there who don't enjoy reading. So really put yourself in their shoes. If you did not like reading, how would you feel about reading a book when you knew what was going to have to happen after you finished it? Would you really be able to get into the book? I know that I wouldn't. I would probably just skim through it, dreading what I knew was coming at the very end. So I really suggest that if you really want to do book reports, maybe have them do it once in a while, not for every single book. And I really want to get a plug-in for notebooking here, because notebooking is a much more fun way to have your kids relate what they've learned about. So I'll link some of my other videos for notebooking at the bottom in case you're curious what that is. But yes, that also will incorporate what they've read and get them to write without doing a dreaded book report, which a lot of kids just don't like. So the next one is putting more value on reading than on your child's own interests. And as I was talking about earlier, you know how I said people tend to put reading up on a pedestal. You know, we do that all the time. And how many times have you found yourself saying something to your kids along the lines of, why have you been playing Minecraft all day? Why don't you go read a book? And you know what? There's value in Minecraft too. And I could make an entire video on the values of Minecraft, but that's not even the point. There are so many different things that your kids can be interested in. And just because you might not see why it's important, it doesn't mean that it's not. So what you do need to remember is that these interests that your kids have can actually be a stepping stone to help them to enjoy reading, or to at least find out why it really is necessary. Because if your kids are given the time to explore what they need, they're going to at some point realize that, hey, you know what? I would probably find out more about how to do this if I would read a little bit about it. I mean, even going back to Minecraft, there are Minecraft manuals. There are Minecraft fiction books. So don't discount what your child likes to do and make it sound as if it doesn't matter and that reading is the only thing that does, because it's not true, and that is going to do nothing but make your kids bitter about reading. So the sixth way is expecting too much of them. This is where that dreaded homeschool comparison bug comes in, because I don't know how many times I have seen, like on Instagram or some other form of social media, a picture of like 55 books, and someone will write underneath it, my daughter read all of these books in 30 days. And you know what? That is great. If your child loves to read that much, that is awesome. But does that mean that you should expect your child to do that? No, not if they don't really enjoy reading all that much. That's going to have the opposite effect on them. And I'll tell you that I would rather have my kids read 5 books that they were genuinely interested in and that they genuinely got something out of than reading 50 books that they just skimmed through so that they could check it off and say that they did it. Doesn't that make more sense? So the last way to make your child hate reading, and I really dislike this one, is to use reading as a punishment. I don't know why we parents seem to do that a lot, because I've also seen that this happens with Bible verses. A lot of times I will hear a parent say that their child was being disobedient, so they had them sit at the table and write a Bible verse 30 times. And I'm thinking, that's kind of going to give a negative connotation to the Bible if you think about it. And that's the same thing that happens with reading. You know, your kids are going to immediately associate reading with punishment. So of course they're not going to enjoy it, and they're certainly not going to choose to do it on their own. So reading is something that I really love to do, and I have 11 kids, and not all of my kids like reading. And you know, sometimes it breaks my heart a bit because I just really, really love reading. But I've accepted the fact that everyone is different, and they might like doing something that I don't like to do. Like I'm a housewife, okay? I have all these kids. I'm a homeschool mom. I don't know how to sew, and I have no interest at all in learning how to sew. And other homeschool moms or other moms in general might look at me like, oh, but it's true. Everyone is different, and that's okay. You know, God created us to be individuals. He did not create us to be cookie cutter images of one another, and that goes with reading. So if you have any additional tips on how to make your child hate reading, or I should say how not to make your child hate reading, leave a comment. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, go ahead and do that. And I hope you have a great day.